Malvern Prep has a very rich tradition in swimming and has produced many elite swimmers, and I look at Lee as being one of those elite swimmers.
He was by far one of the best swimmers I ever swam with. He was a tremendous backstroker and really helped us do what we did in the pool.
He was All-Interact 3 years. He was All-American 3 years. And in his senior year, he was All-American in 3 different events.
Lee was a fiercely loyal teammate and totally committed to our effort and to the sport of swimming.
Knowing his body size, Lee knew the importance of great technique. He was amazing what he could accomplish underwater, and he worked very hard to make that happen.
The way that he swam and the way that he approached his events was different than most others.
Lee knew what he had to do to be a good swimmer, to be a tough competitor. There wasn't any race that I think Lee approached where he went into it and wasn't confident of the outcome.
Lee was absolutely a leader on the team. There was a group of us that were all leaders on this team, and Lee by far set the example in terms of dedication and practice and work ethic in and out of the pool.
Lee's top performance was his senior year, and we're at the National Catholic Swimming Championships at Villanova University. Our first event was the medley relay.
Lee always got us off to a lead in the event. I always went second doing the breaststroke, so yeah, Lee got me a great lead.
And that relay team broke the pool record at Villanova and also a National Catholic record. Later, Lee came back and won the 100 backstroke, breaking again Villanova's pool record and National Catholic record, a record that stood for over 10 years. By far, that was Lee's outstanding moment at Malvern. Lee is one of the top elite swimmers ever to come out of Malvern Prep. His record 100 backstroke stood for 23 years. It's one of the top times that we've ever had in backstroke. He is well deserving, of what he has accomplished. Lee, congratulations. Welcome into the Hall of Fame. You'll be joining many great Malvern alum. You'll be in a brotherhood that's very special. I first saw David when I was coaching in Pennypacker. He was swimming for Martin's Dam under Danny Riker, and I saw something very special in David.
Dave was a superior athlete. He was very diversified in terms of what he could do in the pool. Not only was he good in individual events, he was great on the relays as well, but more importantly, he could swim distance swims, he could do sprints, he could do all the different strokes very well, and that's what really made him a great swimmer.
He was willing to put in the hard work and the dedication that was needed for him to excel.
He was always one of the first ones at practice, one of the last ones out. Totally did what he needed to do to make the accomplishments that he did.
Being a distance swimmer, that meant more time in the water building his aerobic base. Also being slight of frame. He wasn't your typical 6-foot, swimmer. He knew that technique played a very important part in his success and was very coachable and willing to do what it would take for him to be a better swimmer.
David was very much a leader on the team, and he really set the standard for work ethic. He helped to motivate the team to perform in the pool on a day-to-day basis. With swimming, it takes so much time and effort in the pool, day in and day out, and David really set the example and raised the bar for all of us to race to.
National Catholics in 1991 at Villanova University. David won 2 events, the 200 IM and the 500 freestyle. Both were school records. 500 freestyle still stands now.
It's a well-deserved honor for Dave to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Again, he was one of the best swimmers in Malvern history. Clearly very diversified in terms of what he did, was very talented in everything that he swam at Malvern.
David is joining a group of scholar athletes that he belongs to be with. His proudness in the pool and great job in the classroom puts him there with some of Malvern's best. He's one of Malvern's great swimmers. So David belongs to be, with the many other Malvern alums in the Hall of Fame.
Doesn't matter if you're in high school, college, professional. When you see greatness, you know what it is.
As an athlete, he was simply better than everybody else on his level. Chris is definitely the fastest athlete, the strongest, and had the best sense of humor of anybody I've ever played with.
He had all the natural skills that a great running back has, and he had a motor that just went and went and went. You could hand him the ball 40 times a game, and he'd want it again. He was just a workhorse that never ran out of steam.
People also underestimated his strength. He never lifted, at least through high school. I know he lifted when he got to Maryland, but he was a freak of nature when it came to his leg strength.
I think on the field, there was a general comfort level when Chris was in the backfield on the field. I mean, you knew you could play with and beat anyone on any given day with him in the Malvern Prep uniform. Off the field, he was great at keeping things light. He's a comedian. I mean, he's absolutely hilarious. He always kept the mood light off the field and made everyone feel that he cared about them and put a smile on your face.
I think Chris, led by example. He wasn't a vocal leader. How can you not follow someone after he basically made 11 players on the other team miss him and run for a touchdown?
Our toughest test in 1997 as far as the Interact went was definitely Germantown Academy. Chris, I believe, had 298 yards rushing in that game, plus a 80-some yard touchdown run. And a lot of those rushing yards were not on 1 or 2 long runs. I mean, he was breaking off 10, 20, 25 yards at a time. It was one of the more amazing athletic performances I've ever seen, where he was just combining his speed and his strength, and he really carried us that game. I believe we did win 24-21. And I think at the end of the game, Gamp even said, "Thank God, and thank God for Chris Downs."
I think Malvern's Hall of Fame is better for it. I think not only are you getting a great athlete, you're also getting a great person.
And for him, I think it's well deserved. If you look at the City of Philadelphia records, his records at Malvern Prep, his records in the Interacademic League, I don't know of any better candidate that should go into the Malvern Hall of Fame that's not in than Chris Downs.
The class of '88 was just blessed with a large number of amazing athletes.
Fran was a runner. I mean, that's what he did. He was amazing.
Fran had so much talent. He would run several events in the spring track season, and I think the spring events actually allowed him to display his talents.
He used to talk about the runner's high all the time. Like, he could run for miles and miles and miles and just feel this runner's high.
I think Fran was able to accomplish so much as a track athlete because he didn't take anything for granted. He knew it took work on top of the talent.
And you could see with Fran, his athletic ability was a step above. Since he loved it as much as he did, he excelled even more so in that world of track.
Fran was intense, but at the same time, he had an air of quiet confidence. He wasn't the kind of guy that would be in someone's face.
The one thing that I always admired about Fran was that he was always honest and he was always straightforward. There was no going around anything. There was always a positiveness with him that I was always impressed with.
I think one of the characteristics that drew me to him as a friend was that he didn't really care what others thought about him, and he wasn't all too concerned about fitting in. So I think he led just to his own unique personality. You couldn't narrow Fran's athletic career to 1 or 2 performances. He was so prolific. He excelled at cross country, obviously did well at winter track, and still holds all kinds of Interact records in spring track. So instead of focusing on one event or one athletic achievement, I would say his basket of work speaks for itself.
I've watched him as an athlete and as a person, and on both sides of the coin, he excels. His athletic ability and what he's done as a true athlete, I don't think there's anybody more deserving.
Kevin, as an athlete, he was the guy that was always the one, the last one in the gym, the one that was always working the hardest. And it wasn't just that he was working the hardest, but he was the one that had that confidence and just determination to always be the hardest worker, which was infectious to all the other guys that he would practice with around him.
I just remember Kevin always had such a tremendous passion for the game of baseball. He was always a very gritty player, always played as hard as he could, and got other people to be motivated as well.
Unique about Kevin's athletic abilities is his mental toughness, I think. They often say 99% of all failures come from guys who make excuses, and Kevin never made excuses. Whether he would strike out or make an error in the field, he was always right back in there, determined to make the next play. So if you ever beat him once, you weren't going to beat him a second time.
Kevin was a leader on our baseball team and also a leader around campus as well.
No matter what he was doing, he was always working as hard as possible. So his work ethic, his character, the way that he held himself in the practices, whether it was in the gym or in the cages, he played the exact same way in the field. So he always carried himself with a great deal of confidence and determination that I think, as a leader, would rub off on everyone else around him.
He was one of those ball players that couldn't get enough of baseball. He probably wanted every game to be extra innings, So just a tough-nosed guy. It was always fun playing baseball with him.
Probably the most memorable performance for Kevin, I think, is something more that he would probably appreciate as more of a team event, and that was in 1992 when we won the Interact Baseball Championship. We were playing against Haverford. We were down by 1 run, and it was the bottom of the 7th. Somebody got on base, I forget who it was, but got the second. I came up, hit a double, got the third base, and then Kevin came up right after me with the game on the line and hit the deep fly ball to left field for me to score. So it was a great, big moment for us as a family, for us to win that game, but more importantly, I think, for the team. And we were all comprised of basic brothers. It was the McKernans, the Davises, the Kennys, the O'Briens, and it was just a really unique atmosphere for a team. Not only that, but it was the first season as Greg Gross as our coach, and he taught and instilled in a lot of us that if you want to be a leader, choose your moment and step up and be the leader. And I think what we learned from that entire season is that it didn't matter who you were, when it was your moment, it was your time, and Kevin definitely stepped up at the last minute there to win the game.
I met Joe the very first day here at Malvern Prep. Joe and I, we've been in each other's wedding parties, saw our children come into the world. Children have met each other. We were in the Army together, and like I said, he's my best friend. If I needed him, he would be there for me. If he needed me, I would drop everything and go right there for him.
Joe's involvement at Malvern and his class in the Alumni Association is first class. When we had the opportunity to decide who we wanted to award this, the Loyalty Award for, Joe was one of the first names that came to mind because of his dedication to the school. He was a graduate of 1960. He's been employed here as a teacher and a coach for over 19 years. He was a commencement speaker in 2010. His son Terry graduated here in 1988. He's been an active telephone and class agent leadership over the last 34 years. And overall, any event that you can have on campus, Joe, you can count on Joe of participating.
We are both on the board, which we're very honored to be on the Alumni Association board. Joe and I have also run our 40th, 45th, and 50th class of 1960 reunions.
Joe's been a class agent since 1980. He's been one of the most loyal. You can always count on Joe for being an active participant. The participation rate of his class in 1960 is one of the highest of all the classes that we have. Joe is involved in many of the community service events that we sponsor from the Alumni Association.
when I came to Malvern as the alumni director in 1999 and 2000. And there, I'm back on campus with my best friend, and I had a chance to really observe Joe. And I could see how much Joe really cared about Malvern, which I always knew, but also his caring for the teachers, the staff, the students, and the parents.
The one item that really most people from an alumni group can connect with Joe on is he started the 3-on-3 basketball tournament here for the senior class. And those seniors that participated over the 19 years that Joe's been here as a teacher, that is one of the things that they remember most about Joe. And when they come back on campus, their eyes light up when they see him because they remember that experience with him.
I watched Joe with his interaction with the students on campus, and I see that same interaction when those same students return to campus. And Joe has that great Malvern feeling for tradition and involvement with the students and the alumni.
Joe inspires me to be more engaged at Malvern as I look at him and his career where he spent 19 years as a teacher and as a coach. When I look back at his commitment to the school, everything he does is for his love for his alma mater, and hopefully I can resemble that in my future as well.
This is a well-deserved recognition of those traits that Joe has, and I'm so happy for him.